In this video, I wanted to get your thoughts on how you think that the manufacturers could maybe regain your trust in the products and the services that they provide. My other videos are talking about what I think to be the lowest all-round trust that we've had in the manufacturers because of the kind of comments that I see in my YouTube channel, and also from being in the industry a long time and seeing people over the desk and chatting to them. So it's kind of got me thinking. Like I said, I read all the comments that you put on the channel, and then it kind of brings me on to the next set of questions. And the next set of questions was, well, okay, what can I do about it? Now, you may have seen in my last video that Elddis have asked me to go up to the factory because on the back of an email that I'd seen them send out to their customers, which I thought was pretty positive about, talking about what they're going to be doing in the future and the things are going to be changing going forward to try and regain that trust. So that was what I think is a quantum leap forward in the process, and it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. So that kind of got me thinking, well, what can the other manufacturers do, and what can Elddis do to further get the trust level back up to where it needs to be? Now, the reason I think that things have been going slightly wrong, we are having a downturn in the caravan industry for various reasons, and it doesn't help when the actual products that the consumers are buying is exacerbating that problem by the customer buying a caravan and having issues with it, whatever they are, and then getting disillusioned and coming out of the market altogether and giving up caravanning, which is certainly what I've seen. Whether that's 100% of the reason, or it's the last straw, or they were thinking about giving up anyway, obviously we'll never know. But when you're reading comments and they've been having issues with a various caravan that they bought, and they spent a significant amount of money on that product only to feel like they're being let down by the manufacturer or the product itself or the dealer or whatever it happens to be, and then they decide to leave the industry, that's not helping. So we want to regain those people if that's even possible, or certainly stop that from happening in the future. And I think that the way to do that is it starts with the product. So the product has to be good, and I can do lots of videos on what they could do there and the difficulties that the manufacturers have to achieve the product. I've also done videos on blaming the consumer themselves because they want too much stuff in the caravan. So you can't lay the blame to one particular thing. It's just the way we are. We haven't got the baby boomers that are going to dig us out of the hole that we saw in 2008, where they've got they're certainly downsizing their houses, and they're got excess income that they can spend on caravans and motorhomes. So they're not there anymore. So we have to really kind of keep hold of the consumers that we've got, the customers we've got, and also entice more into the industry and into the pastime. Now, the problem we have is that with all the customers out there that have got issues, unfortunately, because of the modern era, they can go on to the internet and tell everyone about it. Now, I've also come to the conclusion, and this isn't rocket science, and before I go any further, I'm going to say I haven't got a marketing degree. I don't know anything about marketing other than the fact that I buy stuff and I know what affects me, and I know what I feel when I see certain things out there in the marketplace, whether it's whatever you happen to be buying, and I've lost trust in the overall pitch that a company will give you to try and get you to sell their stuff, because they have a vested interest in trying to get you to sell their stuff. So of course they're going to tell you that it's great and that you should buy it because of this, but then you turn on the telly and you've got one toothpaste saying this is great because of this, and then you've got another one saying that that's great because of that, and they can't all be great. So I think we're getting bombarded by these messages of greatness, and we're all a bit blasé to it. So I think, as soon as I hear that kind of thing, I just switch off and I don't take it in. Now, I think one of the most powerful tools that are out there to be able to sell products is word of mouth. So you're much more likely to believe Bob down the pub, or that person you met on that forum with their personal experience, you're going to take that on board when you're making a decision to buy a product. So if you go and want to buy a Swift, and then you go on the Swift forum and you see lots of people saying that they're not going to buy Swift anymore, and this has happened and that's happened, you're probably not going to look at that product, whatever it is. And so unfortunately, because of the way we do go on forums and we tell everyone what a bad experience we've had. We don't generally go on there and say how great things are. So I've always tried to be to get a balance going with these things, and so I want to know about the good as well as the bad, because I don't want to get into this forced feedback loop of just getting fed bad experiences. And if you go back and have a look at some of the comments on some of my other YouTube videos, you'll see the vast majority of it, unfortunately, is negative. There are some good positives in there, but unfortunately, the people that have got a positive experience might not be looking at YouTube channels, because they've got better things to do, to be completely honest, and then watch me blabbering on. So I'd say that there probably are a lot of people out there that do have a positive experience, and they will tell other people, and they might have had experience with the other manufacturers and they've moved from one to the other, and they've had a positive experience there, so that will kind of lock them into that product. So from the manufacturer's point of view, the biggest advocates for their brand and their products should be the people that already own their products and are tied into their brand. Because if you have gone to the show and you bought a motorhome or a caravan and spent a significant amount of time money on the product, then you're physically invested in that. You've believed what they've said in the brochure. You've maybe done some research, because that's the other thing that we do these days. Is back in the day you couldn't go on YouTube and Google and find out what's going on, and that's the first thing I do. If I have something that I want to buy, first thing I do is I Google it and I have a look at the Google reviews, and you can kind of gauge to what degree those reviews are truthful. And if there's loads and loads of really good ones and a few bad ones, and that's fine. If they're all middling, you can kind of gauge by looking at them all where that product is. And certainly I've read 1 or 2 reviews before and then been put off them and not bought them just on the strength of those Google reviews. So that's what we do. If I wanted to buy a caravan and I knew nothing about it, I would go on Google. I'd go on the maybe the owners club, something like that, and see what's just kind of passively look and see what's being said there before I make that decision. We also have previous experience. So if you have bought a product and you have had a past experience, like I said just now, that is going to significantly alter your buying decision in the future. So from the manufacturer's point of view, the best advocates for that brand should be people that have already owned them. Now, if I was reading some of those comments and was looking at some of the people that have had issues, they're the ones that I think you need to get hold of and change their mind and get them on board. Now, the thing we've run in this business, been in the business for 30 odd years, I have had issues before where I've fallen out with a customer for whether it's my mistake or their mistake, or I've done something wrong, whatever it is. We've got to the point where we've come to blows or had an argument about it, not physical blows. Not yet anyway, had an argument about it. And once the dust has settled, I've kind of thought, well, this is a good opportunity to get that customer back on board. And I certainly have had some of my best customers that I've kept for years have started off rather rocky, and I've been able to bring that round and then help them out on do whatever we needed to do. And they've become some of the best advocates for my business. And I've got several cases that I know where I've been able to get that relationship back in again, and then I've gone a bit further on beyond than I should have done with helping them out, and it's kind of paid dividends. They've then bought a caravan off me, or they've told other people to buy caravans off me, or whatever it happens to be. Now, if you take that from my small little business here and kind of scale that up to the manufacturer's side of things, then I think that is the way that I think that they should go. So like I said, I'm not a marketing expert. I don't know if any of this stuff is what I'm saying actually would work. I don't know, but that's the way that I've done a few things in the past, and also I think the way things are changing. Now, they have marketed the products in the same way for the past 30 odd years, you've got a glossy brochure. Obviously you've got websites that have come through in recent years. We're still looking at 10, 15 years there. We've had websites. Then you've got the shows where they put on great big stands and everything looks super duper. And they've been doing that for a long time. And that's great. I think you still need that. But I think because of the way that the world is going, and we can look at other people's issues, we're not just on our own personal experience, we are absorbing everyone else's as well. So if you pick that brochure up and it's telling you how absolutely fantastic the smart construction is, I mean, it might be smart, it might be solid, it might be Alitech, whatever it happens to be, the brochures are going to tell you how great it is, and this is why you should buy it, because it's not going to leak, because this is what we do, you know, blah blah blah. You can read the brochure yourself. But then on the same breath, we then know that we have had cant rails leaking, we've had sunroofs crack, we've had the Bailey floors leak, we've had issues with Elddis construction as well. So if you know all that, and then you read the brochure, to me, you can't believe what the brochure says, because it's telling you everything's great, and we know that it's not. Now, we know it, the customer knows it, the manufacturer knows it, the internet knows it, and there's plenty of experienced people out there telling you all the issues. So that's where I think if the manufacturers just keep on going with the way that they're doing things, and it sounds like they're not, don't get me wrong, I don't think, you know, again, with that email that Elddis sent out, it definitely sounds like they are changing the way they're doing things, because there's people out there much more clever than me and know, you know, how to do marketing. I've probably cottoned on to this already. So if we haven't seen it, then I think we are going to, and I think this is the way things should go forward, because we have to get those people back into the fold that were leaving the industry for the industry's sake, but also from a personal manufacturer. If you have people with issues, you don't want them out there telling everyone else how bad the products are, because they're going to shout extremely loud and do that, and then you're going to be putting people off. Because like I said, the biggest seller of caravans are your peers. You're going to listen to what other people say, and unfortunately the biggest voice out there are going to be the ones that have had issues because they feel let down. They've paid a lot of money for a caravan or a motorhome, and they feel that they have had got a raw end of the deal, so they're going to shout about it and tell everyone else not to do it. Now, to me, that's just a kiss of death. You don't want anyone out there saying bad things about your product. So that's how I think that they should restructure marketing and look at recouping those people back into the fold. And so I see different ways of looking at PR and also the warranty as well. I've read a few comments where a customer had to take their caravan back to the dealer to get them to get the manufacturer to have a look at an issue on a tap, and then it took 6 weeks, and then they came back and they said they're not replacing the tap because it was, you know, out of warranty. So that I don't understand that logic, because you've disrupted the customer. They've had to take it to the dealer, which I do understand. You can't send people out to do these jobs. They do have to go back to the dealer, because otherwise you know someone lives in the Outer Hebrides, you can't send someone out unless you live dealerships in the Outer Hebrides, but you know what I mean. So I say that boggles my mind, because the customer has had a bad experience by taking it back to the dealer, which most of them don't mind, but there is an issue out there of having to do that. Then it's been sat there for weeks, and then the manufacturer come down or been sent off, and then they turn around and say, oh no, we're not going to replace it. What's going to happen there? That customer is only going to have a bad experience. They're going to tell everyone else about the bad experience. And if someone goes up to them and said, oh, I've got an X, Y, or Z, I'm thinking about buying a Swift or Bailey, and they've had that experience, they're going to say, don't buy that caravan because this is what I had to do. And in the end, we didn't get the tap replaced. So to me, for replacing a 50 quid tap, which is going to cost, that's what it's going to cost the dealer to do, plus a little bit of labour from the manufacturer, then that doesn't make any sense. It isn't a commercial decision that I think that you should do, because if you take yes, you've saved 100 quid on a tap and paying the dealer a bit of money to do it, but the money that's cost you is insurmountable. You cannot quantify how much that £100 has just cost you as a dealer, as a manufacturer, because all they've got to do, I mean, probably they're not going to buy your product next time because of it, so that you've lost a sale, and then they're not going to tell everyone else to buy that product either, are they? Because they've had that bad experience. So I mean, all the manufacturers might do that, but they don't know that. So they say, I'm never going to buy an Elddis, I'm never going to buy a Swift again, I'm never going to buy a Bailey. And when you look at the forums, you get loads of people all saying, I'm never going to buy X, Y, and Z caravan because of the trouble they've had. And I just say, well, look, they're pretty much all similar. So if you're kind of jumping out the frying pan into the fire, because that manufacturer may well do that and may have annoyed you because of that, but then that manufacturer is going to do the same thing anyway. So yeah, so there's another thing you could do, is accept that that's the way it's going to be and just get on with it. I can assume, I would only assume that the comments would tell me that that's not a feasible way of looking at things, that you just kind of got to take it on the chin, buy your caravan, accept that it's going to be in the dealer for X amount of weeks and I'll have to go back to the factory, and then you're not going to be able to use that caravan for a period of time. So that is scenario one. You could do that, but I just don't think that is acceptable, and I'm sure you'd agree. So that £100 that the manufacturer could have spent on that tap would pay dividends in the long run, because like I say, you can't quantify what that is going to cost you, because you can't measure it. You just don't know. But I've certainly been in a situation where I spent £100 on sorting a customer out from my own pocket, knowing that they're probably going to go and tell everyone that they had a good experience, and then I know that I've had someone come in and say, oh, I spoke to Mr. Smith and he said that you helped him out, so I've come along to look at a caravan and we've sold one, and then you just don't know where that's going to go. So I did say that I'm not a marketing expert, but I do know a way of finding out about how to do things. So in these days, you've probably heard of ChatGPT and AI, and the fact that it's going to take over the world and everyone's going to lose their jobs. And I think one of the areas that might be actually the case is marketing, things like that. What I did is I took all your comments from the Elddis videos, because I had that was the best data plan that I had. So I took all those videos from the very early ones as well, and the last few that I've done, and I put them all in a Word document, and I fed them into ChatGPT and asked it to summarize it. Obviously, it wasn't a glowing summarization of the manufacturer or some dealers and whatever has been chucked in there. It kind of threw it back out at me, and then once it had that data set, I asked it to come up with a marketing plan to regain trust in the consumer, to kind of get back, that lost trust. And it came up with a kind of a detailed plan, which I've got here somewhere, and it's a good read. I'll see if I can put it up somewhere. I'll put a link to it, and you can do it yourself. Yeah, it was very interesting, and it's basically saying what I think I've been saying by being more transparent and being open about the products and kind of owning it. Because if the first thing you need to do is say, yes, we have got a problem. Now, there is a few occasions where you see that when there's a recall or something like that with the manufacturer, but as far as I'm concerned, they're very reluctant to do that. We haven't had anything directly from any of the manufacturers saying that we have an issue with this or that, or that this is what they're doing about it. Not that I've seen anyway. You may well know different, and if you do, pop it in the comments and let me know, because I might have missed it. But obviously we all know about the sunroofs and the Swifts and the cant rails, and we know about the Bailey floors, and we know the Elddis problems with cracking roofs, and we all know about it. So the thing to do is own the problem, and then that starts to build the trust level, because the one thing that you don't expect to hear from a manufacturer is the problems that they've got, and what they're doing to overcome it. So I think that it's all very well having a brochure and doing the shows and having websites and having everyone tell you how great it is, but again, I think it falls on deaf ears. I think a much better way of spending the pounds, and it's starting with the product, is getting the product better, which I think the manufacturers are always trying to do. Get the warranty better so that you're not losing customers through that, and then get the transparency there so that if there are issues, which we all know there are, what are they? tell us about what's being done about them. Bring it out in the open, and then keep that discussion going. And it may well be detrimental to the first year or the second year sales, because I know that the manufacturers have like a 4 or 5 year kind of plan. They know what they're doing for that period of time, because they have to plan that far ahead. So they might not be able to do anything about it in the kind of the near future, and it might have a detrimental effect on sales, because if you have a manufacturer come out and say, yeah, look, we've got a problem with this and we can't fix it this year, it's going to be a bit tricky for you to buy that product when you know you're buying something with an inherent issue, which everyone knows anyway. If you look at, well, unfortunately my channel, because I spread the bad news, but I think it's better to talk about it than not talk about it. I mean, I said before in another video, they had I've joined the Swift Crack Sunroof Club on the Swift forum, so you know that there was an issue out there, and that if you then go and buy a Swift, you'd like to know that that has been solved. And I think it has been, but I just, I haven't seen anything out there yet. A bit more about that, but I think that's down to the manufacturer to, again, if they'd have said, yes, we are having problems, and I think they should have done this years ago, this is what we're doing to solve it, bear with us, then by now we'd be in that position of trust. So I think we're in a kind of a last-ditch effort to do it now. If you don't do it now, I think it's just going to carry on going, and the industry will decline. We'll lose more people buying new caravans, and then that'll be the end of it. I think now we're on a tipping point of this is the time we have to do it. And I think the first manufacturer that comes out and does it is going to have a march on everyone else, because the first manufacturer that does it will do it for real. It will then feel like all the others are doing it because that one did it, so we've got to do it. So it's the transparency, I think, is the key to it. Is telling the customer what's going on, telling us what they're going to be doing about it, and keeping us up to date with that. And it's easy to do in these day and age. You just do a YouTube video on it. You have a face of the company, which I think is another thing that they can maybe do, is whenever you've had an industry person who is synonymous with that manufacturer, like Jim was with Coachman, and there's been a few through the years, then you have that person talk about these things, and then the customer can gain trust in that person. It's kind of a spokesperson. At the moment, I think what happens is the customer sees the manufacturer as being an evil overlord sat on a chair made of gold that they've pillaged from all the customers that they've conned over the years. You haven't got that customer face really to be able to relate to the product. It's just a manufacturer out there, and they see them as just being out there building a caravan, and then you've got to go through the dealer to be able to get to them. There's a kind of a wall that they have to go through to get to the dealer, manufacturer. And I think, like I said, with what Elddis did recently, and I know other manufacturers are doing it as well, to get a closer link to the end user, to the manufacturer, then that would be a better way of doing it. But I think you need a figurehead to be able to do that, so they have a point of contact. So I think that would be a big thing to do as well, is to have someone who you can kind of view as that product ambassador, if you see what I mean. So when I asked AI about what marketing campaign they could do, and it came up with the transparency and all the things I've been talking about, kind of opening the chocolate factory doors, and really seeing what was going on in there. There's other things here. Open data dashboard, published live statistics on warranty claims. I've said that before. That would kind of, again, give a quality to that information. I mean, it'll probably be completely boring and no one would actually really want to read it, but I can guarantee you out there'll be a few people out there that would want to read that, and they will keep an eye on it. And if you saw something coming up year after year after year after year, it would be embarrassing for the manufacturer to have that happen year after year. I think it would really kind of spearhead and drive a willingness to get that problem solved, because otherwise it's going to be embarrassing seeing it year after year. And you could say that has been happening. We've had cant rails from 2015, the last one I saw leak was 2023, and all in between. So really it should have been fixed by then, and it might well be fixed now. Just again, I don't know about it. It would be interesting to see what the construction methods are and whether they've changed it to overlap the roof. And you've seen the videos before, you know what my thoughts are on cant rails and things. So publish live statistics and customer satisfaction scores, both the successes and the ones that didn't go quite well, and then understand, you know, how they could get those people back into the fold. Now I know it's very difficult when you're looking at warranty to do everything. You don't want to do everything, because there are some times where, okay, look, that isn't covered because you haven't had it serviced for 4 years and the whole thing's completely rotten, and it's going to cost you £7 to do it. There are lines that have to be drawn, but if you look after your caravan and you have it serviced regularly, and you know, if it's a year out of warranty, then it might be viable for the manufacturer to do it, and they do that. Don't get me wrong, they are pretty good at that because of the PR. We've certainly had things where they haven't had a service done here or there, or it's a bit out of warranty, and Swift have done it for us. So they are good at that. Yeah, monthly update videos, have the engineers and customer service staff explain what's been improved, what's gone wrong, and how it's being fixed. Make these updates accessible and honest. Again, you know, it's going to build trust. So the first manufacturer to do that, you're going to back them, aren't you? You're going to go, well, crikey, they're doing that. They're really showing us what they're doing, and they're admitting that they have issues, and this is what they're doing about it. Because we will forgive them for that. You know, we all know nothing's perfect. It's how you deal with it after the effect, and don't let it just carry on and on and on and on and on, and still have the same problem today that you've had 10 years ago. Offer rewards, yes, you could do that. Peer network support, create a peer support network, create and moderate online communities where owners can help each other out and share maintenance tips. Well, we kind of got that already, but unfortunately it's kind of turned into something where people go on and moan about stuff. And I do know that the manufacturers do monitor those, so they do read these things, and I have seen 1 or 2 chirp up when there's been issues. So again, they're probably doing all this stuff. It's just I'm maybe not going as far as I think that they maybe could do, and they might, you know, that might be the next step for them. Road shows, open factory days, they do all this. Showcase changes made from feedback, so regularly highlight specific improvements made as a direct result of customer feedback and things like that. Independent reviews and audits, so I suppose people like me, I'm going up to the factory that aren't invested in making sure that that product sounds absolutely fantastic because you're getting paid by them. Customer satisfaction awards, okay, we get those, but you know, that's only when you hear the good stories about them, isn't it? So crisis transparency, what does that say here? Own the problems. When issues arise, recalls and common faults, communicate openly and quickly, share what's being done and how affected customers are being supported and what's being learned. So, you know, it isn't rocket science. I'm sure you'd agree that would, you know, if you knew that was going to happen, if you did get a problem, if you knew you'd be kind of brought into that loop of helping other people, then I'm sure you'd want to back that manufacturer up. So why does it work? Well, trust is built, not bought. You know, you have to build this trust up, which I think is lacking. Word of mouth is so powerful. Satisfied customers become your best salespeople, especially when they feel heard and valued. Transparency reduces rumours, and you know, I'm part of that as well. You know, you hear something and you think, oh, what's going on there? But if it comes from the manufacturer directly, then openly sharing both successes and failures prevents misinformation and builds credibility. And community creates loyalty. Again, you know, when you've got a community of people that are invested in a mass manufacturer and a product, then they all get together and they all talk about it. And when you feel like you've been looked after by the manufacturer and the dealer, then you're only going to share that experience, aren't you? Yeah, built on trust, proven by owners is one of their taglines. And that came out of, you know, I just prompted AI to give me, you know, some things that they could do to market their product. And it's, again, trust, transparency, I think is the way to go. So then I asked it, who else does this way of marketing? And that was dead interesting, because the first thing that came up was Tesla. That's what they do. Minimal traditional advertising. Tesla spends little on traditional ads and brochures. You don't see their cars being advertised anywhere, do you? On the TV. It relies heavily on word of mouth, which is where they're investing in their own customers. So exactly what I've just been saying. The biggest advocate for the brand is going to be your current owners, customer referrals, and social media engagement. So I mean, when it threw that back at me and said, well, Tesla does that, I think, well, it's going to be the biggest company in the world pretty much with what he's doing, whether you like Elon Musk or not. This is what they're doing. Referral program, direct engagement, Elon Musk official accounts and all that kind of stuff, customer-led content. So the customers of Tesla are actually producing content themselves. Subaru doing the same thing, owner stories, community building, transparency, Harley Davidson. So all these massive companies, Mazda, Volvo, they're all doing it. And the one thing I have noticed about the caravan industry, we do get kind of thought about as being similar to the car industry, which we're not, because the scale is just completely different. But the customer still sees it as being the same. So if that's what Tesla and all these big companies are doing, then I think that's what the caravan manufacturers should do. It's clearly working there. So, I think it would probably work also with the caravan customers as well. So what did you say? Key takeaways. Automotive brands that focus on transparency, customer engagement, and advocate consistency and build stronger trust and loyalty. So there you go. And then it kind of snowballs from there. Once you get that going, you then stick at it and you get into this kind of new mindset of that's the way things are done. Not just relying on a brochure telling you how good they think their products are, because you're just not going to believe it. These companies leverage real customer voices, open communication, and community building as core marketing tools, often with great success. So there you go. So it says here, for Elddis, adopting a similar approach centered on customer advocacy, transparency, and community would not only differentiate the brand from other caravan sector in the caravan sector, but also align with proven strategies from some of the world's most trusted vehicle manufacturers. So like I said, the first manufacturer to do this, I think, is going to have it away. I really do. So this is where I hand it over to you. Am I talking rubbish again? Would that change your mind, so that if you knew that this was the way that the manufacturers were going and they could prove it, and I think the willingness is there to do it, and like I said, they might already be doing it, and some are going down the line already. Give me your experiences of how you've seen this in real world and what you've felt. Do you think they're trying to build the trust back up again? And I think that first step, where I saw the email going out from Elddis, is the first physical sign I've seen of it. And what manufacturers have you seen doing it already? So yeah, pop your comments down below. Let me know. It's going to be interesting to see where we go. And I suspect that I'm probably talking to people who are in the marketing business out there and know a lot more about it than I do. So if you can pop your thoughts in the comments, say I chuck it all in AI into ChatGPT, and I get it to kind of do things with it, because it's a fantastic tool to be able to do that with. So anything you say goes in there and adds to the this kind of stuff that they're talking about. And I think this is gold myself. I really do. And I don't think it's rocket science. I think it's obvious that that's the way they should go. But I think it's kind of like steering the Titanic. I think they've been doing something for so long that they're just carrying on doing what they're doing. And it's starting to move in another direction, and it's following the trend of what you're seeing out there and what people like Tesla are doing. All you need to do is kind of look at it and think that's working and replicate it, and I'm sure you'll see the manufacturers will see the benefit of it as well. So yeah, like, subscribe, do all that stuff, and I'll keep you posted. I'll probably do another video next week on the back of this one to find out, if I was talking rubbish or not. And thank you very much for sticking with it, and I will see you next time.